All right, let's talk about synthesizer power supplies. Now what I've got in front of you here, this is a Cz-101. The boards really are identical to the Cz-1000. What they did to shrink it is they just put the keys effectively on top of the boards, where in the Cz-1000 they extend kind of over the edges of the boards. So really clever to fit it in here and make it so tiny. Now, back to power supplies. The CZs use a basic adapter, right? AC-DC adapter, says 9 volts, 600 milliamp. But is it really 9 volt output? No, it's not. It's 13. And that's typical, 12 or 13 volts. A 12 volt adapter will typically put out like 16. Now that voltage will drop a little once it gets loaded in the system, and that's part of the idea. But the other part of the idea of what's really going on with power supplies is what I want to talk about. Too many people think, oh, I just need a new power supply, something went wrong, it's the power supply, it's the little adapter. That's not even half the story. So let's get some glasses on here. If you look inside this synthesizer, and this is the same story you'll find in just about any, like, ooh, here's a Mirage. If I opened up the Mirage, I'd see that instead of a external adapter, all this stuff was on the inside, but the story's the same. And that story is there are multiple voltage rails inside this. Just like in your computer, you've got, plus and minus 12 volt and 5 volt, maybe 3.3 volt, a bunch of different power supplies. Same thing in the synthesizers. All of them. Nothing just runs on, what's coming out of the wall adapter. So many things can go wrong inside your synth. So, case in point with this one, here we have a Zener diode. That is used to produce a stable 6.3 volts. Over here, we've got another little power transistor being used to put out a stable 5 volts. We've got this guy here being used to put out, actually no, I was about to make a mistake. Up here, this little transistor is being used to put out 4.3 volts, and it's adjustable by tuning this little resistor. So in troubleshooting this one, because like I said at the beginning, it just won't power up. I mean, the power light won't even turn on. However, when you go inside and start hunting around for voltages, you find that most of them are there. I've already calibrated this one. This is rock steady, 4.3 volts. The Zener diode's fine. It's holding voltage at about 6.38, which is fine. The problem is this guy. Now, this is a big heat sink. It should tell you something. It should tell you this gets hot. This is the main power for all the things that the synth does and the rest of the boards here. This is the 5 volt power supply, which powers up all the integrated circuits, the microprocessors, everything on the synth. So when I turn this on, it doesn't heat up at all. In fact, I see nothing. I see 0 volts everywhere. So I backed up one component to see, well, what's sending that power? And it turns out it's this little transistor here, just a standard little transistor. It's a low noise transistor. It's a 2SC1740. They're discontinued but available on eBay, which is a good thing because I need one. So when I was looking at this one, what I noticed was that it's getting power to its base, putting out no power from the emitter, which is what's connected to this power transistor. Now, when you test a transistor, you use a voltmeter and you turn it to ohms, and then if you got one of these fancy ones, you know, if you're watching this video, you should have one of these, or you will get one soon. You put it in diode test mode. You can actually test transistors that way. So I was testing the transistor junctions, which should look like diodes. Okay, so that means they transmit power only one way. So they show up as an open circuit one way, and then they show up reading about, should be about 0.7 volts across the junctions in the other direction. The only direction you should see voltage on. This one is messed up. The base emitter junction shows me a voltage potential in either direction is causing the transistor to let power flow. So I was looking at it closer, and here's what I saw. Let me move it down here. There's a big hole in it. See if I can zoom in there. Look at that. A chunk of this transistor is missing. You can see the leads going in, and then it's just plain gone. This is the guy that went bad, which is preventing any power from getting here. Now what I don't know is, did this component just fail on its own, or did something else fail? Okay, so I've got, you know, some experience with other things blowing up, other failures. I've seen them in the past where it has been a capacitor that's literally exploded and taken some other things with it. Now, this, that's probably glue. The weird thing is, yeah, see, look, not weird at all. See this green glue? It's there. It's there. I'll probably find it in any of the horizontally mounted larger transistors. So don't worry, it's not leaking dielectric. The transistor itself looks fine. That is just glue to hold it down nicely. So transistor, new one is on the way. I hope that's all I've got. I hope that replacing that will power this up properly, and then the rest of the Cz-101 will magically turn on. I still have to take this one apart. I think maybe all the way. The keys were pretty dirty. It's a little tedious to take it apart. It's multi-layers, just a bunch of sandwiches in there. This down here, this is the display, is in here. I've seen some videos of this taken apart. This right here, that is your memory card connection. Okay, then it goes up through this ribbon cable into this board. That's your reset. And there's a few variable resistors for tuning the DAC circuitry on this. Make sure that it's working right. Pitch wheel, you know. This is a nice unit. So I'm fixing this one up. It's kind of small. Since it's small, I might keep it because I don't have a lot of room. I have too many synths. But they're kind of fun. So keep in mind, this one's coming. Might be for sale in a week. Something like that, 2 weeks. All right. Remember, power supplies are not just what you see on the outside. There's a lot more internal components for any synthesizer power supply.